Christian parenting.
Sharon Mankin, welcome back to Part of the Mess. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. What a fun day. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Sure did knock on your door the other day, and your daughter and your grandchildren came to the door. I was like, hi, is Sharon home? Because you live in a cool area. We won't tell everybody which house is yours, but I was at this coffee shop and you were like 2 doors down. And I'm like, what the heck? Let's just see if she's home. But I missed you.
Well, thank you. And thanks for pursuing me. And it's fun. It's fun to be close enough to your grandkids where they hang out in your home, for sure.
Yeah. So what's been going on in your world since we last talked?
So we had our last conversation not 2 years ago, well, over a year ago. And since then, we've added 3 granddaughters to our cousin crew.
Wow.
So we have 10 grandkids. I will tell you, it seems like yesterday that I was launching my children, just like you're launching Ella, and blink an eye. And just the other day, my 16-month-old granddaughter is pushing a chair up to the kitchen table, climbing onto the kitchen table, standing in all her glory on the kitchen table, this is the stage, thinking she's the best thing ever, and then also panicking at the same time because she has no idea how to get down.
Right.
And so this tension of like helping them grow, but also rescuing them is still happening. So I'm back in the grind with babies. I'm having a blast mentoring and coaching women and helping them grow. I have no greater joy than defending another woman's dream, and that's just been really fun. And the other thing that's changed is that my husband, Dwight, who I call Mr. Wonderful, is in transition. After 42 years in healthcare business, he is on pause. And so we are talking all the time about who and what matters most and what we want to do for the rest of our lives. So that's been a really fun thing, but also a little bit, I need some coaching around that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we're headed into some different territories. So we'll see where God takes us, but that's what's going on with me.
Okay, well, perfect. We're going to have you back on to talk about that. So y'all, when I think about this is one of those series that you were on the first time that just people love it. Because that is, if you're listening to a podcast, you are an intentional person. You're like, I don't want to just freewheel this thing. It's like, I want to be intentional. I want to learn from people that are wiser than me, that have gone before me, that have done these seasons. So whether you're entering the empty nest stage is the word, not station, stage for the first time, or maybe you're in it and you've got some still in school, or whether you have toddlers, it's like, let's just look ahead and say, what have you learned? Because it's just so kind of you. I told you, we prayed before we got on here. I was like, Sharon could be at the beach with all of our grandkids and not care, but you genuinely care about women and helping us move through these phases and learn hard lessons and just think about it from a biblical perspective. And so encourage us, people like me, that are a little bit teary and a little bit white knuckled, and we're heading into this empty nest stage.
Yeah. So I have watched this wild ride of emotions you've been on, and you've been so generous to share sort of the process with a lot of your listeners, and on social media, we get to celebrate when she has big events and NHS last time and all the things that come along. But every time I see that, I think about how this is not just started now. I mean, it starts way back when. So I have these visions of my own children, and it is literally like I can pull up the moment, I can picture it, I can feel it. We've been letting them go their whole lives if we're doing it right. So they're born completely attached to us. They can do nothing on their own, they can't nourish themselves, but quickly things change, right? Just like I was describing, Presley's only 16 months old. She's now climbing mountains, on her own, and also desperately needing my help.
Right.
And so I thought back to like when I dropped my son Blake at preschool, and for days he'd been holding my hand, and like I'd have to like push him off and like push him in, to go. And then one day he marches in, looks back, and instead of waving, he says, "Go."
Oh my gosh. Why are you making me cry already? We're only 4 minutes in. Shoot.
Okay, and then kindergarten drop off. Let's just think about that, right? So this is every mom at every stage. Our PTA hosted what they called the Boohoo Breakfast when our kids went to kindergarten, because all the mommies were just devastated with the first day of school. And then this moment popped into my head about junior high when my daughter said, "Stop the car, let me out here. I want to walk the rest of the way in by myself." She wanted me to leave her on the street and walk in by herself. Or how about that college drop off? My son Blake, top 5 strengths finders is independence. So he's the firstborn too, but I had moved him every single time in his entire life. And when he moved from Dallas to Austin for his first job in his first real apartment, he said, "Mom, I need to do this on my own. Look, I'm crying."
Yeah.
And I stood waving with tears streaming down my face with that tension of the deepest sadness partnered with the most overwhelming pride.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
in the
that's
man
it.
he'd become, right?
Gosh, that's
How about
it. That is it. It's
and then
both. It's both.
I know. And then Courtney, when they get married. So like I think mothers' hearts are connected to their kids with Velcro. You know, we
Yeah.
kind of wish it was super glue, but it's not super glue, it's Velcro. And you know how Velcro is super sticky, it can hold anything. But the minute you give it just enough pressure, it makes that sound.
Ugh.
That ripping sound.
Yeah.
And every one of these little stages is like a little ripping apart. And if your children end up getting married, it's kind of the final blow, right? Because they've now ripped apart from your heart and they have knitted themselves to someone else. And so, you know, we are literally on a quest for our children's independence at the cost of our own.
Yeah.
You know, just connection to them at times. But anyway, that's what makes it incredibly challenging.
Let's close in prayer.
But there is no greater joy. You know, the scripture says there's no greater joy to see that my children are walking in the truth, not walking with their mother. You know,
wow.
I want them to walk in confidence with the Lord apart from us. So
yeah.
Well done, Mom. I know.
Gosh,
it's painful,
it is so
you're doing
sweet.
all the right things.
It is so sweet. It's like watching a movie where all these memories like swirl around and you're like, oh, God is so good.
It's the father of the bride montage. Remember?
My gosh, exactly.
Yeah, where he's playing basketball.
Yeah, oh my word, exactly.
Got, you know, from toddler to braces the whole way through.
Exactly.
That's
what a joy! Like I have loved it so much.
I know. I do have an encouragement for you, though.
Please.
Because, you know, when you think you're giving up so much, you just have no idea what's next. And there's something really good coming. Yeah. You know, when we grieve a lot ahead of time, especially in high school, I remember grieving in advance and it being less hard than I thought it would be, because you just have, you know, you've done a lot of the work ahead of time.
Wendy Henderson, our buddy, was like, sometimes the anticipation is worse than actually what happens. Sure. But talk to me about expectations. So there's an adjustment coming as Ella leaves that's just going to be different. So how do we, and you use this word, which I love, but how do I recalibrate my expectations in these different phases? Because it will be different of her like under my roof in my quote authority. And then she needs to be independent, but I'm still paying her bills. So it's like go away, but can you buy me a Dior dorm room? Thank you very much. So how do we do that?
I totally get that. They take less stuff, by the way, as the years go on, because the first year they realize how much they had to bring home. And then they're like, I'm not taking that much stuff next. So just get ready for a heavy lift. Freshman year, it lightens up as they go back. You know, I share this every time we talk or I talk to anyone, and that just is lay down that gavel of judgment and pick up that magnifying glass of curiosity. And this is just a time to be really gracious with yourself and with her. Less judgment, more curiosity, more grace. You know, and she doesn't get how you feel, so don't be offended when she doesn't and she kind of rolls her eyes when you cry, because she'll be like, whatever, Mom. You know, you have to find some safe and secure women to hang with, to share with, to get on here and talk to me about, like, yep, every age and stage is hard.
Yeah.
But the glory is to raise independent young men and women that love the Lord and are making a difference in the world. So you just have to find your people. You can't really process with your kids. They just won't get it till they're parents, you know?
Well, and they have their own feelings, which I forget. I get so consumed by my own journey. Like, woe is me. And I'm like, oh, I forget she's having an emotional journey of fear about leaving us and sadness about leaving your sister. And so the other day, God really convicted me about that. It was like, yes, you can be sad, but she is going through stuff too. And so that is very humbling. Larson, I'm like, this girl has been so strong. And then Ella walked through the halls and she just lost it. So it's like, yeah.
And the dynamic of the family changes completely, right?
Yeah.
That's a loss. The youngest is always like, wait, where did my backup go? Because everything now focuses on them and they're,
yeah.
You know, all of a sudden they find their voice, but they also have a big spotlight on them. And so it'll be really hard for Larson as well, you know, to miss that dynamic of the family. So be sensitive to that as well. But, you know, I think the other piece of advice I would say is to really understand and learn the definition for being codependent. In the addiction community, it's way bigger, of course, but it's such a good, simple definition to begin to think, am I doing more or thinking more about their problem than they are?
Wow.
And when they're infants and toddlers, like I literally have to think more about Presley on the top of that table than she is, because she has no idea the distance to the floor. She's definitely going to take a nosedive, and so I'm diving for her because she doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
But you've done the work. They know.
Yeah.
They know. And you're going to have, I can't tell you how many times I would tell my husband, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell him how to do the laundry, or just whatever would come to mind. There were so many things I needed to teach them that I didn't teach them. And he was like, honey, we have literally given it everything we've got. If there's something that they don't know by now, they're going to have to
They're figured out.
And he felt perfectly fine about sending them away. And I just constantly thought about everything that they hadn't known or done.
Gosh, it's so true. Ron's like, I'm great. She's great. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was sure she needed me. There could be some codependence in there, right? Like thinking that they cannot do it without me, which is super unhealthy. And then regarding like, oh, but I'm paying the bills. Well, how about this? This I need to make myself perfectly clear. So bring out your bold confidence when you need them to understand, hey, here's the deal. Right. Dad and I are paying the bills. It means that we're still connected in some way and we still have a voice in your life, and so just be clear, but don't be punishing or
manipulative. I can see me like using that to like, I do find that I'm more codependent with Ella than I am with Larson. Is that like a second child thing? Like she affects me so much emotionally, and maybe it's just the first child thing, but I think Larson, I say this all the time, could move to Europe like next weekend and we'd be like, she's great. Like, and Ella, I think my concern and adjustment and codependence is making her feel like you don't think I can do this, which is the last thing you want. It's like, no, I actually think you can. I'm just adjusting with the process of it. So that's sending her a message.
One of my favorite questions that we've talked about before on and off podcasts is, what's it like to live on the other side of me? And my intention for what I want them to feel is often not what I'm making them feel. And so when you pause to say, hey, and this is some of the work, and I didn't even really intend to talk about this, but I could even give you a link in your show notes to a document that might help moms, is how do I want to make them feel? And so it's this word bank list that you can be like, oh, I want to make them feel capable, would be your example. So let's say I want to make my daughter feel capable. What are the actions I'm performing, doing, in the words I'm saying, making her feel capable?
No.
And it's probably, you're looking a little pathetic, like there's no hope for you because I need you to stay home. And so you just have to do the work. I mean, honestly, it doesn't take much because you're super willing and you know the kind of girl you want to be. So what's your goal? Right?
Yeah, I love it.
Girl. Back it up to, is what I'm doing, am I being sabotaged by my emotions, or is what I am doing actually making her feel that way? The beauty of this is that she's a grown up big girl and you've been working on communication her whole life.
Yeah.
So you can literally say, hey, I need to stop for a second. I do not think what I have been doing is making you feel the way I want you to feel. And just tell her how you want to feel.
Love it.
This is what I believe to be true about you. Ella, you are capable. When I get upset or look like I'm afraid, it's because I am, just because of my love for you. But it's not because I don't think you can do it. So just stop and give the speech. You can fix it in one conversation.
Y'all, we are going to replay that. I'm going to have it in my ear and say what you just said.
Okay, but a lot of times too, Courtney, the thing that I think we do wrong, and I've done it so many times wrong, but it's never good to do it in the moment. Because when you're emotional, you're going to make it worse because you'll end up crying and looking kind of pathetic. I mean, I can remember my kids being like, why are you crying? What's wrong with you? And then you're like, well, that wasn't a very strong, I'm not making myself perfectly clear because what I'm doing doesn't match what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, so just circle back, be like, hey, at your grad party, I don't know what the heck went on, but grace to both of us. This is a really challenging time. And don't be pathetic. This is one thing I've learned to do for myself because I was always kind of pathetic. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. So my shame then became somehow about me.
Right.
Like,
isn't that funny?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I ruined your party. I'm like, no. I was like, you know what? I was just thinking about this. No wonder I cried. You're the most important human in my life and you're about to leave. Grace to me. So kind of show her how to model even grace for herself in this season. Hey, we're going to give each other grace. That was kind of, hey, we all went to Crazy Town. We call it crazy. Like, what were we thinking? We all went to Crazy Town for just a minute, but we're back.
But we circle back. That's right. We sure did.
Here's what's true. Here's what I believe. Tears, I want to look you in the eye and tell you this is what I
that's good.
About who you are.
I like it. So. Y'all, look at this free counseling we're getting. Free counseling. Okay, so you've kind of touched on it, but anything else for the empty nester that's scared? That's like, maybe it's, and I have a friend this is her only child, and there's just a lot of unknown. Like, what is this going to, like, are my husband and I going to get along? When am I going to be bored? Do I go after that thing? Like, and I think a lot of our identity is tied up into nurturing and caring for these kids. And so it feels like a jolting, possibly. So talk to us that are scared. Give us some encouragement.
The first thing that came to mind was my best friend who went before me and had an older son who'd already left the nest, somehow knew to invite my husband and I to join them for a weekend at a bed and breakfast after we dropped our oldest at college.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
You're going to want to either overfunction, you get home and you overfunction and you like try to just pretend it didn't happen, or you're going to melt down into depression and lay in their bed and smell their stuffed animals. You're going to just disappear into a puddle of mess, or you're going to be like, hey, this happened. I just need a minute. Need a minute,
Yeah.
and then you can let whatever needs to happen. And she invited us to a bed and breakfast, and we met them for a weekend. It was just so good because we cried and laughed and we talked about it, but it wasn't so jarring to come home to this empty house. I had something to look forward to. So put something out there to look forward to, and then just rest, and then give yourself permission to feel all the feels. I mean, it just is, it is what it is. Every good counselor tells you have to go through the feelings. You can't dismiss them and bury them. And so I say rest, find someone to have fun with, and then have something to look
It's
forward
like,
to.
me very well. I could see myself doing both things. One, I'm like, we're redecorating the whole house.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, I'm going to binge these 4 shows. I'll see you in about 3 weeks. Like, there's both of those.
It might not be very kind to, make their room into the exercise room yet. I mean, kids kind of get offended when they come up from the college the first time. They're like, wait, what happened to my room? Were you not even waiting for me?
So funny.
The other thing that came to mind was to just keep working on you. God's not done with you yet. I had a moment, and I thought it's kind of a poignant story. It's actually a really tender one, but it was a big deal for me that might resonate because I didn't expect it to know it was coming, but I felt it. I had been primarily a stay-at-home mom and ministry leader. I hadn't worked in a career, but I had several leadership roles, and I definitely continued to grow as a woman, apart from my children, which I was grateful for. But I mostly had my identity wrapped up in being a stay-at-home mom. And then we support, our husbands in their careers and our children as they grow, and we are determined to help them become the person God wants them to be. So we spend a lot of energy thinking about them and where they're going. And so what surprised me when I worked with my coaching group that I've shared about before was that I felt really, I hate to say it, but this is really the truth, resentful. Because I was like, hey, I made everybody else's life happen.
Gosh, yes.
And now I have nothing left for me. And when the emotion came up as a people pleaser, I could hardly say it out loud. And so I was able to say it safely in a group of women who got it, but also understood my heart. But I also knew that I was married to a great man and all the things that you're like, how can I feel that? Like, is that even fair? So they coached me into meeting with Dwight and telling him how I was feeling in that season. And this is kind of how it went down. So we're on the couch. I said, hey, please don't get defensive. I don't even know if this is fair. But in this season, I feel like I have made everyone's else life happen. And then there's nothing left for me. And in his Holy Spirit-led brilliance, he said, oh, honey, but you did make our lives happen.
What?
He affirmed me. I was weeping. He talked about all the things I've done. I'm getting teary-eyed talking about it right now. But in his following pregnant pause, he said, hey, could you promise not to be defensive if I tell you something?
Oh, shoot. You're like, could we have ended where you said I'm amazing? Shoot.
Some days I think about how I made your life happen.
Darn.
And I got to turn to him and say, you did. Like, I lived my dream.
Oh, and my word, Sharon.
Because he grinding it out on an airplane and just providing for our family. And so what I realized was it wasn't that I was bitter or resentful towards my family. I just felt at a loss because I felt like my dream had died, you know? And
Wow.
so that's when I did the work on me. You know, who am I? What do I do? Because it's just because God has given us a purpose in our lives and we apply it to different, as my friend Kat says, different assignments, right? So we're born to glorify God and to make him known. And in that, we have this unique gifting where we apply it. And then for me, it was to help people grow. So I applied my which was to help people grow, to my family and my husband and the people around them. But when they were gone, I didn't know that my purpose could continue. And so you're not done when the kids leave, if that's been your primary assignment. You just have to look for another assignment.
Wow.
And so, but it's also just good to be honest about how that feels and then say, what's really going on here? Just like you would with Ella when she melts down at the party. What's really going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's grief. You know, she's sad and overwhelmed, or maybe she's anxious about being the center of attention, or who knows?
Exactly. That's exactly
what's really going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we're down to the wire and about 150 of my closest people are about to walk in the door. And, you know, it was a lot of anxiety. So that's...
And then, so we're going to go rest.
Okay.
Do our work.
Okay.
And if you don't have a girlfriend or a group like I did, either create one or hire a therapist, but make sure your therapist has the heart of someone who can help you evaluate the past, but sort of look forward as well, you know, because I think sometimes we can get stuck in therapy and we need vision at this point. We need hope.
I need you and my counselor. It's going to be a team to get me through this, folks. It's going to be an expensive season.
I would say is if you're feeling stuck, disrupt your life on purpose.
Wow.
So we learned this by selling our family home. I know it's crazy. Talk about a disruption, but we did wait till they were all out of college just so they could bring their friends home through college. But we literally sold our family home and disrupted because we literally we had no new vision. You know, we were kind of home on a Friday night watching movies, eating pizza and being like, what are we even doing? Our neighborhood had turned over. We had nowhere to go, you know, so just it doesn't mean you have to sell your house, but like have to work, go do something different, try a hobby and fail, you know, I tried needlepoint because my niece loved needlepoint and I did one project and thought it was my thing and I haven't done another. It wasn't my thing. I mean, it wasn't, you know, so just disrupt your life on purpose, do new things, you know, in every season when you're feeling that way.
Look, you've just given me the quote I need. I'm ready to move. And so I'm going to say, Ron, Sharon said to disrupt our lives on purpose. God spoke. We're out of here.
Even a negative disruption gives you new vision. And so even in this season where the world feels disruptive, I'm like, Lord, you gotta be doing something new because he's a good God. He's going to knit all this mess together somehow into something good. So just hold on to hope.
Sharon, you're complete gold. I want to get to some practical things, but first, can I ask you this question? Let's go back to the addiction terminology. So I'm an enabler, if you will. So if I want to support, but also have her become her own person, like what is that balance? How can we support while letting go? So like if she's like, Mom, I need and the nurturer in me and like she needs me is going to like jump on a plane and go want to just get all up in it. So where is that? Like I'm here for you, but you've got this balance. I imagine it's hard.
Okay. Yes, but I've got some good words for you because these have been birthed out of this exact moment for me, and my husband helped me. Couple of things. First of all, you have to decide what they need in the moment. Like, what is their emotional need in the moment, right? So let's say you have a kid that goes off. Hey, this isn't just a kid that goes to college. This is a kid that goes to elementary school, and he screws up royally, right? Now, don't forget, and we've talked about this before, like, be the mom that says, hey, the first thought in your mind when you screw up is, I need to call my mom.
Love it.
And so you can't be an anxious mom. You have to be a non-anxious presence because they're not coming to you even if you say it, if you're anxious, or you respond with the gasp. Do not stop the gasp. It's going to just send them running, you know? So you got to be like, who I'm with. And I always think, she is just, you cannot fluster her. And I think, what a gift.
Yeah.
You have to be unoffendable, you know? And so be unoffendable, unflusterable. This is an exercise. You have to practice this.
Yeah.
And when you screw up, you say, hey, I kind of overreacted. I went to crazy town. I want to redo. And you just start over. So you have to know what they need. So sometimes they need a storm wall. And this was Dwight's term. So remember Katrina years ago when the levees broke? Yeah. You know, you can't break under their storm wall of emotion.
Wow.
You got to stand firm. So sometimes they just need a storm wall. Get ready for the night that your daughter called you and she's bawling and she tells you all the terrible things that happened during sorority rush. And you literally receive all of that, hold it for her, don't sleep a wink all night, text her the next morning and ask her how she's okay. And she says, I'm fine. What are you talking about? Because she has literally handed you every anxious thought she had. So now you're carrying it and she's fine.
Okay.
So when you're a storm wall, just be ready to be able to hold those emotions, trust that that's part of even just like that's all you needed to do for her was just listen. And then ask, do you want me to help you solve this problem? Do you, or how can I help you? Let me know how I can help. And so let the game come to you. My husband says, let the game come to you.
Okay, you knew I was going to ask you something that wasn't on the list. Why are you this emotionally strong? Is it your wiring is different than me, or you've practiced, or Jesus, like all the above?
So I learned, I was 63 years old when I learned this word, because it's my ongoing battle, and that is the word enmeshment.
Okay.
There's a whole thing about enmeshment. Like literally, I'm so highly empathic that when my kids are hurting, I'm hurting so deeply inside.
Okay.
And so it's practice. I just want you to know I'm working on it every day, because if I want to really help them thrive, I have to get stronger and be better. And to be vulnerable isn't wrong.
Yeah.
So don't not be you. They know that I get really sad when they're hurting, but I won't allow that sadness to interfere with what God's doing in their life. And
well, it's like the old every strength has its corresponding weakness. It's like we know that. It's like one of the best things about me is I care so deeply. One of the worst things about me is I care so deeply. You know what I mean? So it's like watching. So I'm glad to hear that from you. Just say like, no, you're still you. You still care deeply.
I am right now in a season where I'm praying for a stronger disposition, where I am not riding the waves of their emotion, but God can give me the ability to be empathic when I need to be, certainly validate hard feelings, but also show that I trust a God who's doing something bigger. Because when I am afraid, it literally just kind of projects onto the fact that I don't trust God with their lives or what he's doing or how he's growing them. So it's just
this is gold.
Work. Yeah. And I would say that I'm a lot older than you, and that's been a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. So if you see, I'm actually really encouraged, because if that's what you're seeing, that's what I've been working on.
Yeah, I absolutely see it. I'm like, what is she made of over there? Okay, this is so insanely helpful. I cannot wait to listen to this one like 3 times. Okay, so let's get into some fun. Like, you were just straight gold. I know you don't know that about yourself, but like just the wording, the visual, like these things are going to stick with people, and it's going to help me immensely. So Ella is going to circle back next year and say, thank you, Jesus, for giving my mom the podcast so she could call Sharon and she'd be less freaked out and crying at my doorstep. Hopefully that's the story. All right, let's get to some fun things. Give us some creative ideas on how you can love your kids from a distance.
Oh my goodness. Okay, one of my friends and my daughter went to college, hosted a care package party. This was so fun, and it gave us a chance to connect, and because it was just like a month after all the girls, the besties from high school, went to college. So she said, bring 8 things that of identical things, kind of your favorite things party in a way, reinvented 8 things for this identical things to put in these care packages. We'll make each girl a care package. Every mom brings one thing to put in each box. We're going to have a time of fun and fellowship. We're going to talk about how we're recovering and all of that, but we're also going to build these care packages with little notes from all these bestie mamas.
Oh, I love that.
Send them off to the girls. Isn't that fun?
So fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
That was brilliant. And it was such a fun thing that we didn't know we needed, just to get together, because you're together all the time through their senior year. But when the girls
I've heard it in various ways from friends. I've heard one of my friends has an actual company where she'll send theme boxes and stuff. What I love about your idea is it's the community you were with before, getting them back together. And then me being able to still pour into those girls is like an aha for me, because I'm close to her friends. Like, I'm going to miss them too. They're in my house all the time. So being able to have a little deposit, like literally in their mailbox, makes me really excited. So I like the twist on this idea, and I'm totally doing it. Okay, next. What you got?
It's totally fun. So our family, and I can't remember if I've shared this before, but we have a history, and it started super young, of just because gifts. And so we do those just because gifts. And the key to them is they show up when you've gotten in trouble, like Grace does. They show up when you're sad or lonely, or they just show up when you weren't expecting it. So just those little thoughts. With Amazon, it's awesome, because I used to have to like physically mail things. You can just send things off with a little note, thinking of you, thought of this, one of your favorite things. So just send little things to your kids along the way.
Love it.
Hard mail clearly is a good thing in college, like hard mail, like write letters.
Yeah.
And if you don't write letters, use the postcard apps. If they were home for the weekend with their college friends, send the postcard app of the group of their friends in front of your front door so they can stick it on their bulletin board. So use.
Wait, what's that? What do you mean? What's a postcard app?
Yeah. Yeah, the postcard app. So there's multiple different kinds. We can link some in your show notes, but you just insert a photo and they mail it for you. And
wow.
you type in what you want to say
I'm
on the
like
back of the postcard.
The dark ages. Okay, amazing.
I learned them for my elderly mother-in-law, because she didn't do social media or phones. And so we sent her postcards for years until she passed away. And so that's a great application too. But it's just great to get a hard copy of a photograph, and a sweet note.
Cute. I love that idea.
Last couple of things, just when you call, it's better not to say, hey, I haven't heard from you in forever.
Yeah.
It's better to be like, hey, I'm just checking in. You do not need to call me back. Wow. I know that you were so busy, but I wanted you to hear my voice, that I'm rooting for you. I'm praying for you. I'm cheering you on. Then on the opposite, you need to say, hey, make this speech before they go. If I need to hear from you, you will know it, because I'm not a needy mom, but when I need you, I need you. So don't be needy, but then be clear. Like, hey, you have got to call me back this afternoon. I have something important I need to talk to you about. So just don't be passive aggressive.
Can you do a Tumblr line or like don't be needy, be clear? Like, I need some t-shirts from you. That is a good one.
Well, Brene Brown is the one that says clarity is kind, like clear is kind. And, I would say my personal sort of recovery has been through kind of passive aggressive nature. And when I learned what that was, I even told my kids, hey, if you notice I'm being passive aggressive, call me out, which I hated, but they did. Hey, are you being passive aggressive?
Yeah, I'm very good at passive aggressiveness. Yeah.
It's okay to be disappointed. Like if they change their mind and don't come home a weekend that they said they would or something, you can be like, hey, I'm super disappointed. Disappointed is not passive aggressive. But being like, hey, but I understand something came up is good. So you can be clear.
Okay. Love it.
Okay. The other thing that's been new to our family, which is my husband's inspiration, and it's one of those things where you're like, you just love him more when he does something like this. But it's a different application, so I don't know what you would call it in a young family. But he has been doing a Monday Popcast. So Pop is his grandfather name.
Stop.
And so every Monday, the whole family gets a voice memo from him, and it's an update for the family. We're the ones that are connected to all the kids. So he says, hey, welcome to Weekly Popcast. He does a really fun and hilarious sponsorship. It's like an inside joke.
So good.
And he starts to show that way. And then he says, hey, here's what's going on in everybody's family. Hey, and he ends by praying for all of our grandchildren by name.
What?
And then a specific thing, either the Lord has been teaching him, he'll send a sermon that he's loved, or he'll say, hey, this is like last week he was praying for the grandkids' friendships at the end. And so, I mean, literally, I'm like, who are you? He's so brilliant.
That is incredible.
So this is the way that we grow into their generation. Like, what does it look like to stay connected to the family? Well, you would normally write letters to each other, or we never get on Zoom calls, and we don't even really FaceTime. So it just is a really creative way. Well, the kids have loved it because they listen to it like a podcast on the road. So they don't have to call us. Anyway, so that's Popcast.
Sharon, what is amazing about that is there is a passive aggressive guilt that comes with parents. It's like, well, have you checked in on your sister? Well, why didn't you know he did that? Or why didn't you know your niece? And it's like, I cannot keep up. And so what a gift that he is providing everyone by literally cheering people on and saying, here's what's going on this week. I mean, we have a group text, but if you have something going on, you're like 100 texts deep and you can't go back to see what happened or what said. So gosh, that is a brilliant idea.
Isn't that fun? Well, I thought it was incredible. So I was excited.
Mr. Wonderful.
I had to ask Mr. Wonderful, it was okay if I shared about the Popcast, because it literally is our little thing, but I think it transfers really well. And the last thing I'll say is tell them what they're doing great. Our boys really, really, really need to hear from us that we respect them. There's a lot of research out there about that, almost to the point of being like, am I overdoing it? And they say you can't overdo it.
Wow.
Hey, I really respect the way you're handling things. I really respect the way hey, I heard you reached out to your sister. I really respect you for managing your relationships. And so just really telling them who they are, just give them specific encouragement about what they're doing well. And then this is the time to begin to open up and say, hey, listen, you probably don't know this about me, but when I was in college, I went off the rails my freshman and sophomore year. When I think about my own personal testimony, I think about how if my parents had not given me the freedom to mess up, I would never have known what it was like to live without Jesus. Because I had grown up in a world where I didn't know a world without church or Jesus or God. It was just, I believed it from the beginning. I don't remember a time when I really, but when I walked away and had my freshman, sophomore year at college and went buck wild and left Jesus behind, those were the years that made me like, oh, I thought it was better without him, but I was wrong. And I came back. And so, from the head, the heart is experience. And as much as that's what connects and lays roots in our heart. And so if we do not allow our children to have these experiences, they don't see any application.
Wow.
And when they get burned, they recover, but then they believe you. That's how we find the truth, I think. And we just pray that it's not life altering.
Yep.
They make, certainly we need to jump in, when we see them doing something that could harm them like that. But we also can't control that. So yeah. I look at my own testimony. I'm really thankful that my parents let me experience life in my own terms and find out the truth about what happens when you do.
Wow. Gosh. Sharon, what I love about you is that this is who you are. Like, I know many people listening right now are like, can I just sit with her for $300? It's like, yes, actually, you can hire her as your coach. So I'm going to link to her. This is what she does. And so thank you for sharing a piece of this with us. And I know that you've been intentional about wanting to be helpful and encouraging. You've got mounds of notes. You've prayed over it. So my last question to you, is there anything in those beautiful notes and anything God's put on your heart that you feel like, I think I was supposed to share that and we didn't get to it? I just want to give you space to end with anything that you feel like you didn't get to that you want to do. But it was more than enough and perfect. But I always want to just let you have the last word.
I've got one.
Yes.
I just looked back.
Yes.
Okay. I want you to make a goal for your relationship with your kids. Every single kid. That goal can change. We had said earlier, how do we want you to feel? That's one aspect of aligning your behavior so they feel the way you want them to feel. But what is the goal for the relationship? And that goal changes based on the season. And so when you're raising adult children, I don't know if there's a better goal than to just say, my goal is to stay connected. Because when you get into a crosshairs, like, okay, you and Ella, you have go to crosshairs over something during this stressful season of graduation, and you mistake your goal as wanting to be anything, right? Figure out your own feeling, anything. You're like, no, my goal is stay connected. Hold on, let me back up the train. What do I need to do to stay connected to Ella? I've got to take 10 minutes on my own, figure out what's going on with me, because my goal is not to take care of me in relationship with her. It's to stay connected. And so that goal, you could define that goal in a season where I had a season where I didn't enjoy one of my kids at all. They were not enjoyable at all. And I was given the advice by another mom to make the goal that at the end of every day, I would pray their strengths over them.
Wow.
Because I was literally praying their sin for them. Like, I was like, Lord, help us not be mean to our brother. I mean, I was like, to me, they just were insufferable in that season. And she said, no. And I remember thinking, well, all I got is, well, Lord, thank you that their smile lights up the world when they smile finally, ever. And I remember like, oh my gosh, I have got to change my goal here. Like, my goal was not to feel frustrated, and that wasn't a good goal. And so just figure out your goal for your relationship and then calibrate your actions, your thoughts, your behavior to that end. And if we do link in the show notes to this Who Matters Most document and how to manage those relationships.
We will.
Yeah, that is in that document.
Okay.
It gives you a word bank for goals, and it gives you word banks for feelings. And it's really helpful. Super simple, but it just is a little exercise you can do to work on your relationships.
Hey, can I give you a new assignment that is not from Jesus? I just want it. Can you and Mr. Wonderful do some seminars, like raising adult kids, and then we just come sit and do breakouts, please? Could that be a thing you think about? Pray about it? Perhaps.
I don't know, but we'll grab dinner with you and Ron anytime. So just ask. I don't know. We'll put that on the dream board. Thank you for dreaming on my behalf. Because sometimes that's a good thing when your friends dream for you.
I'm serious. I was just thinking, like, as soon as I have this episode, I'm sending it to my pastor and his wife. They've been on, and they said, "Where's the book on raising adult kids?" They were like, "I guess we're going to write it," but they're like, "It's harder than anyone says." Like, if you want to do it well and do it the way Jesus would. And so I think there's a huge need for it out there. And so I don't know if you're the one to write the book, or I was like, I'm going to send this to her and have like pray and pay Sharon and Mr. Wonderful to come to Compass and do like a little seminar for us. So be ready.
Well, we would certainly entertain that if the Lord wills. But
okay. Thank you.
Hey,
thank you. Thank you.
Me.
It was brilliant. Thank you.
It was a great time.
Love you tons.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye, dear friend.
Christian parenting.